As of late, there's been a huge emphasis on theme park ranking videos on my channel. We just recently stacked up all the Six Flags parks, then all the Cedar Fair parks, and now we're going to be doing the SeaWorld parks. Now, if you aren't a theme park enthusiast, then you might be unaware that the company is more than just the 3 SeaWorld branded parks in America. There's also the 2 Busch Gardens parks and the 2 Sesame Place parks that are additionally owned by SeaWorld Entertainment. This brings the total up to 7 parks that we'll be ranking in today's video. But just a heads up, there is one honorable mention. Currently, there's a park known as SeaWorld Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates that will be operated but not owned by SeaWorld Entertainment. That property is set to open later in the 2022 season, but currently we do not know enough about this park to rank it in the video. Also, I'd like to inform you all that while there is a SeaWorld park in Australia, that one is not at all affiliated with the SeaWorld Entertainment Company. With that being said, let's get to ranking. These are the SeaWorld owned theme parks ranked from worst to best. Number 7, Sesame Place San Diego in Chula Vista, California. The newest SeaWorld theme park is actually yet to open, but it is scheduled to debut in March. The reason it'll be finding its way onto this list is because it's quite obvious that this will be the appropriate ranking. The park was formerly Aquatica San Diego, and before that, Soak City, making this their 3rd major transformation. Now, I was actually a pass holder for Aquatica in 2018 and had a lot of fun here despite the middle-of-the-road slide lineup. From my understanding, Sesame Place will keep all of the same slide complexes with one exception and will add in a number of amusement rides for kids. Additionally, the park's general appearance and theme will be altered to appeal to a family audience. I think this will be exciting for the little ones now that there will be a furtherly well-rounded ride lineup. Plus, with how aggressive SeaWorld has been with new coaster additions, don't be surprised if this park eventually gets a Gravity Group family coaster. Number 6, Sesame Place Philadelphia in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. The original lone children's park in the chain has a nice mix match of dry rides and water slides. But where it takes the edge over Sesame Place San Diego is for one particular reason that I'm sure you're all aware of. Oscar's Wacky Taxi is the park's signature attraction, a small-scale Gravity Group coaster with a boatload of airtime. And despite its size, this ride caters to all sorts of audiences, and it's usually enough to draw in coaster enthusiasts. They also have another family-style coaster known as Vapor Trail that looks to be surprisingly zippy for what it is. Other than that, there isn't much for my age group to enjoy, but that's totally acceptable. Sesame Place by nature is meant to appeal to a younger audience, but the fact that they have a fantastic wood coaster at all is fantastic. I really hope that we see one of these at the other Sesame Place at some point in the future. Number 5, SeaWorld San Diego in San Diego, California. The closest park to home for me is also the park I've been to the most amount of times. And just a heads up, if it weren't obvious enough already, this is a huge jump up from Sesame Place. SeaWorld San Diego just doesn't rank higher for a cheer competition, but it's a great park on its own. You've got some fun coasters in Manta, Ember, Electric Eel, and Journey to Atlantis. But there's also an underrated batch of non-coasters like Shipwreck Rapids and Bayside Sky Ride. If there is one thing this park could seriously improve upon, it would be to have a better flat ride lineup. As of now, they only have a couple and none of them cater to thrill seekers. This is different from all the major parks in the chain, and it's confusing since it wouldn't at all interfere with the height barrier. I just don't know why they don't have more flat rides. Anyways, this park does make up for it in the animal department, but I'm not going to be talking much about that because it is somewhat of a controversial issue. Just note that the animal aspect absolutely applies to the following 2 SeaWorld branded parks on this list as well. Judging by the future of SeaWorld San Diego, I look forward to seeing what's next, and I'm certainly grateful that I'm able to call it my home park. Number 4, SeaWorld Orlando in Orlando, Florida. Unpopular opinion alert, since I know the majority of you guys watching would rank this at number 3 on your list. SeaWorld Orlando undoubtedly has the best roller coaster lineup of any of the SeaWorld branded parks. Mako is an exceptional B&M hypercoaster, Manta is a great flying coaster, and Kraken is an underrated floorless coaster. I also look forward to Icebreaker when that opens in February. Additionally, this park has some pretty good non-coasters, but still not exactly enough of them in my opinion. Infinity Falls and Empire of the Penguin are great, but yeah, it's not as many attractions as you'd like. Still, it's a beautiful park as with all the parks on this list, and it's easily accessible right in the heart of the Orlando area. If you've held off this park before because of Disney and Universal nearby, I don't blame you, but if you have an extra day in your trip to Florida, SeaWorld is definitely still worth a visit. Number 3, SeaWorld San Antonio in San Antonio, Texas. The most underrated park on this list is one that I was very impressed with. I visited this park in the winter season of 2020, so take into account that the event completely changed the atmosphere of the place. But this park had such a homey feel to it with such a relaxed atmosphere, and it's absolutely beautiful, and they have an underrated ride lineup. Steel Eel is my personal favorite here as that coaster packs in some outrageous airtime. Texas Stingray is a close second as well, with great pacing and plenty of twists and airtime. I also liked Great White and especially Wavebreaker. You know, this park actually gets a lot of hate for very stupid reasons in my opinion. People say it's too big for its own good and that it's lagging behind the other SeaWorld parks. Sorry, but I don't see it. There wasn't a single area of this park I didn't enjoy being in. As of now, SeaWorld San Antonio is one of the most underrated parks I've ever been to. Number 2, Busch Gardens Tampa in Tampa, Florida. Taking a huge jump up is arguably the best park in the chain for many. For the longest time, Busch Gardens Tampa was my favorite too, but it wasn't until this year when I figured out that it had some competition. Still, things can change with the addition of Iron Gwazi in March, which I really suspect will be one of the best roller coasters in the world when it opens. For what they have now though, you still have several awesome options. Kumba and Montu are two outrageously intense B&Ms, whereas Shikra is also a B&M but is on the more graceful side. There's also a batch of really exceptional family thrill coasters in Cheetah Hunt and Cobra's Curse. I also of course have to mention Falcon's Fury, which isn't a coaster but is one of the best flat rides / drop towers in the world. Rides aside, Busch Gardens Tampa also has some wonderful theming and landscaping. The park is essentially half zoo with pathways, exhibits, shows, and safari experiences taking you up close with animals you'd normally see in Africa. And after Iron Gwazi, I truly believe that all previous dead spots will be filled for this park. They are currently on track to become one of the world's best amusement parks, but for the time being, there is one that I slightly prefer. Number 1, Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. You know how Cedar Fair has Cedar Point and Six Flags has Magic Mountain? These are parks that are clearly their flagships and always receive the most amount of attention. SeaWorld isn't really like that, as my favorite of their parks is not at all a landslide. Matter of fact, it's unbelievably close between this park and the Tampa location, but the main difference for me is going to be more opinionated in quality. Rather than an African theme like in Florida, this one has a European theme with different countries being represented in different themed areas. The majority of these sections have their own signature attractions, like how Germany has Alpengeist and Verbolten, and Italy has Apollo's Chariot and Pantheon. Speaking of rides, that is a huge selling point for this park as well. Pantheon will be debuting in March, and that will become one of the single best launch coasters in the world. Currently, my favorite there is Alpengeist, which is a huge B&M invert with wild intensity. Most people also like to rave over Apollo's Chariot, the secluded B&M hypercoaster, and Griffin, the large-scale B&M dive coaster. I also really enjoyed Verbolten and Loch Ness Monster, plus some of the non-coasters were better than I anticipated, like Escape from Pompeii for example. I don't know what it was about this park where it just exceeded my expectations. I can't say I was expecting it to be better than Busch Gardens Tampa, but it was. So if you're taking a theme park trip through the East Coast, you will not want to miss this one. As you can clearly see, SeaWorld Entertainment focuses on quality versus quantity. They don't have half as many parks as Six Flags or Cedar Fair, but all their locations are pretty great for what they are. With that, I'd now like to ask you, how do you rank the SeaWorld theme parks down in the comments? Also, if you could do me the favor of liking this video and subscribing to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.